Is zero-emission EVs the only way for the European Union to save its car industry? Right now, jobs are at stake, markets are shifting, and a global power struggle is reshaping the future of mobility. China's automakers are outselling everyone. US tariffs are hammering German exports. And back home, European Union car sales are falling while battery investments hang by a thread. At the heart of it all, the 2035 zero-emission car target, a policy that could either protect over 1 million jobs or cost them. What happens if Europe backs down now? Stick around, hit the like and subscribe button for updates, and let's get into the details. Back in March 2025, the European Union committed that the 2035 target to phase out new fossil fuel cars was here to stay. Despite industry pushback and slowing EV sales, the European Commission stood firm. Rather than backing down, they rolled out a bold action plan to future-proof the automotive sector, an industry that accounted for 7% of the EU's GDP and 14 million jobs. To support the transition, Brussels pledged 1.8 billion euros to secure raw materials for battery production and reduce dependence on foreign suppliers. An additional 1 billion euros was allocated to boost innovation in AI-driven, connected, and autonomous vehicles. The Commission also committed 570 million euros toward improving EV charging infrastructure across the bloc. Recognizing the challenges automakers faced in the short term, the EU introduced more flexible compliance rules, allowing companies to average their CO2 emissions from 2025 to 2027. Still, the end goal never changed: zero-emission vehicles by 2035. Commission President Ursula von der Leyen called the plan pragmatic but unshakable. In March, the European Union wasn't just managing emissions, it was fighting for the future of its auto industry. But would this resolution be enough to protect jobs and investment in the long run? That was the real test. Pulling the plug on the EU's 2035 zero-emission vehicle goal isn't just a climate issue, it's an economic pitfall. According to a study by Transport and Environment, walking away from the target could wipe out 1 million auto industry jobs across Europe. That's not just factory workers, it's engineers, suppliers, tech specialists, and logistics operators up and down the value chain. If the EU sticks to the plan and reinforces it with a smart industrial strategy, the upside is enormous. Car production could return to 16.8 million units a year, the same level as before the 2008 crisis. The transition would generate over 220,000 new jobs, 100,000 in battery manufacturing by 2030, and 120,000 in building and maintaining charging networks by 2035. On the flip side, a retreat from the goal could cause 90 billion euros in lost value chain contribution. It would also derail investor confidence and leave Europe further behind China and the US, who are charging ahead in the global EV race. The message from the numbers is clear. This is about jobs, growth, and geopolitical leverage, not just tailpipe emissions. And while the long-term risks are huge, the short-term market signals are already flashing red. The EU auto market is feeling the strain. Car registrations are down for the first 5 months of 2025, with Tesla taking a 45.2% hit. But the story's not all doom. Battery electric vehicle sales jumped 25% in May alone. BEVs now account for 15.4% of the market, a modest gain, but far from where it needs to be, according to ACEA. Hybrid electric cars are dominating the shift, claiming 35.1% of the market. Meanwhile, petrol and diesel vehicles are falling, now holding just 38.1%, down from 48.5% a year ago. The transition is real, even if it's uneven. Spain's surge is eye-catching. EVs up 79%, plug-in hybrids up 66%, hybrids up 35%. Germany, Belgium, and the Netherlands also saw significant BEV gains. Yet France stumbled, with BEVs down 7.1%, partly offset by a 38.3% rise in hybrids. Infrastructure remains a bottleneck, especially charging grid access. China is eating the EV world's lunch. With over 11 million electric vehicles sold annually, more than half the global total, Chinese automakers are pulling ahead. BYD has now overtaken Tesla in global BEV sales. SAIC, Geely, and other giants have already blown past their 2025 targets. 5 of the top 6 EV sellers globally are now Chinese companies. These firms dominate ZEV segments not just in China, but increasingly in Europe, where sales surged by 49.1% in the first 5 months of 2025, surpassing Tesla's numbers in the EU. China's strategy? Scale, speed, and vertical integration. While Europe debates policy, China floods markets with affordable tech-forward EVs backed by massive domestic subsidies and global export ambitions. ICCT's Drew Kodjak put it plainly, the game is no longer about future targets, it's about competing now. If Europe abandons the 2035 goal, it might not just miss out on climate wins, it could lose the entire EV race. And as China rises, Europe faces pressure from the opposite direction. Its largest trade partner just turned hostile. Let's break down the impact of the US tariff war. The US tariffs have landed like a hammer on German automakers. After President Trump slapped a 25% tariff on EU cars and parts, German car exports to the US dropped by 13% in April and 25% in May. That's €500 million lost in 2 months. The US is still Germany's top auto export market, but now it's dangling a 50% tariff threat unless the EU strikes a deal by August 1st. Germany, already weighed down by energy prices and weak infrastructure, is negotiating hard. But confidence is low. Beyond cars, overall German exports shrank by 1.4% in May. Imports fell nearly 4%. Industrial production rose slightly, but retail sales and construction are dragging. Germany's economy is skating on thin ice, and the auto sector is its cornerstone. The Trump administration's unpredictability, with tariff threats swinging from 10% to 40%, only fuels instability. Investors hate uncertainty, and automakers hate being caught in the crossfire of trade wars and environmental backpedaling. So, amid geopolitical storms and economic headwinds, what's Europe's next move? Let's talk predictions. Europe's zero-emission future now hangs in a delicate balance. The 2035 target is still intact, but the road ahead is packed with pressure, from industry, from global rivals, and from political uncertainty. The European Commission has made big promises: funding for battery supply chains, support for AI-driven vehicle development, and billions toward EV charging infrastructure. But promises alone won't cut it. The transition needs to accelerate. That means faster permitting for grid access, real incentives to drive EV demand, and clear long-term industrial policies that make Europe a competitive manufacturing base again. Meanwhile, external threats like US tariffs and China's EV dominance are reshaping the global landscape. Europe can't afford to hesitate. Consumers are showing a willingness to shift, especially in countries where infrastructure is strong and policy support is consistent. The message from both data and experts is clear: commit and lead or fall behind. Europe has the tools, the workforce, and the innovation. The only question is whether it will move fast enough to keep its lead. Because in this race, falling behind isn't an option, it's a surrender. In the end, let's take an overview of the details from today's video. The EU's 2035 zero-emission target is more than climate policy. It's tied to millions of jobs and billions in economic output. Backing off could open the door for China to dominate the global EV market and weaken Europe's industrial backbone. Meanwhile, EV sales are rising where support is strong, but infrastructure delays and international tariffs are throwing up major roadblocks. So what happens if Europe delays the transition? Can the European Union afford to let China set foot and take the lead? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more updates. See you in the next video.